consciousness, the final frontier. These are the voyages into the universe between your ears. Our mission: to explore collective wisdom, seek out amazing secrets, and spread the message of personal potential.
Okay, hello everyone out there. I'm Tim Starr. You're listening to or watching The Universe Between Your Ears. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Gabi Musheyev.
Hello to everyone. It's wonderful to be here again.
And a fun guest, Tammy Wise, is here with us. Tammy,
thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Actually been looking forward to this. Tammy's a widely respected fitness expert, practitioner of holistic healing, and a Taoist. Is it Taoist or Taoist?
It's pronounced with a D, Taoist Minister.
Okay. She's the founder and creator of BodyLogos Inc, a mind-body fitness, wellness, and beauty company. Tammy complements her teaching of BodyLogos with a private practice in the traditional Taoist healing arts. Mind-body alignment is her central focus. Active meditation is her method. BodyLogos is her movement. Tammy, welcome. Thank you for showing up here and putting up with our technical glitches. And
no problem.
So the big question is, where do we start on this? The one thing that struck me when I was reading this is traditional Taoist healing arts. Maybe let's talk about the different pieces that we just mentioned here at the tail end of this. Is the Taoist healing arts, body alignment, active meditation,
okay,
versus passive meditation.
Okay. So to become a Tao minister, you need to master 4 of the 8 pillars of Tao. And so my choices were meditation, nutrition, herbs, and what did I leave out? And acupressure. So I do a style of acupressure called Tui Na, which means to push and to grab. And that's all about creating alignment in your energy system. And so I was a Broadway dancer before I became a Tao minister. So my physicality was always top dog in my experience of living, right? So when I went into seminary, and I was there for 4 years, I learned all the principles of Tao by way of connecting it to how I danced. Like if they said something about our central plumb line, I would think about that plumb line when I was doing a double pirouette. If they were talking about some sort, the yin and yang, I would think about how when I jumped, I would have to lift as much as I pressed to get the height in my jumps. I would, like, everything turned into a physicality. And it was how I memorized everything. It all made sense if I connected it to movement. So at the end of my training, I had to become a Tao minister, I had to write what one might call a thesis in university. In seminary, it's called a statement of purpose, and it's how we intend to bring Tao into the modern world. And so I created what I call BodyLogos, and logos means divine wisdom, so the body's divine wisdom. So by bringing together my understanding of physicality as a dancer, how I expressed emotion, how I align to perform challenging choreography. And so how I combine that with the principles of Tao is what brought BodyLogos into the world. So BodyLogos really looks at how we live in a divine arrangement, our bodies. And I think more often than not, we think of our bodies as what carries around our head. And that our head is really always telling our body what to feel and what to think. But it's really, our mind might be telling us what to think, but it's our bodies that are telling us what to feel. because it's our body's soft tissue that carries our emotional memories, not the details, not the, like we can recall a story mentally, but we can't recall the feeling without our bodies. We need our bodies for that.
Interesting.
And so when you look at posture and where it's strong, where it's weak, where you're coordinated, where you're not coordinated, any characteristic you can give your physical body in very specific areas has meaning, because we carry emotion in very different emotions in different muscle groups. So your posture says a lot about who you are. So if I'm working in the gym and I see someone I have never been introduced to across the gym floor, I can just watch them for a little bit and get a pretty good sense about who they are. And I think most of us can do that, not knowing what we're looking at. We have an instinct for that, right? But when you know what you're looking at, you can actually create positive change in your own life by using your body as your own therapist.
That's interesting, because they say that 95% of communication is nonverbal.
Yeah.
So it makes complete sense. And then you're just taking in another, it makes sense that we would be able to communicate unknowingly, unconsciously. But then when you make it a conscious thing and pay attention, why not? And you can, you read things from people they don't want you to know, maybe.
That's right. But you can go at creating peace and harmony in your own lives by both a mental and a physical or emotional perspective. You can use both of them so that eventually you come to the middle and you have mind-body alignment.
That's incredible. I never met a Broadway dancer who became a Tao minister. How did you end up making this interesting transformation?
Yeah,
seems like a natural thing to me. I don't know.
It was a leap, wasn't it? I think that, I was on the road a lot. I traveled a lot. And so you spend a lot of time on buses and planes, and I read a lot of Tao theory, or a lot of Eastern philosophy as a whole, while I was traveling. And I just loved it. And then I took 3 different jobs that brought me to Japan. I was in Japan for a good part of 3 years. So I was performing and choreographing for a dance company over there for a bit of time. And I really grew to love the essence of Tao, because it's really connecting to nature more than anything else. Many religions connect to a man's word, and it is filled with rules and laws and good and bad and heaven and hell. And Tao is more philosophy. So you're looking at principles of nature and applying them to the microcosm of your own body. So you're just a smaller version of the entire universe. And so really, I would say that Buddhism is probably the closest thing to Tao, because I would say that Buddha was a Taoist. So a lot of what he talks about is very Tao. So I prefer philosophy to religion, because it gives you your own mind.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you your
religion.
own.
So many. I mean, it's about controlling people. Probably didn't start off that way necessarily, but anytime there's an opportunity for somebody to get some power and start controlling other people, it just tends to happen.
Yeah, and I appreciate the fact that you say that it didn't start that way, because I don't think that was the intention. I do think that it often becomes that. And it's an unfortunate thing, because I think a lot of people do feel a sense of community and being a part of something by being part of some sort of a religious sector. You feel like part of a bigger whole and like-minded people around you. So it's like being in the arts, except it's being in religion.
Cool.
No, I could totally. I almost, when you were describing this and you were painting this picture of you traveling, and I just imagine you sitting comfortably on the bus, and like kind of zooming out from all that's going on around you, and
Yep.
like basically finding this amazing stories of this philosophy, right? And
That's
really
right.
could take you away from all the hustle and bustle of Broadway life, right? And
Yeah, and when you're on the road with a Broadway show, there is a lot of drugs going on. There's a lot of misbehaving going on. It's a little bit of a crazy, it's a crazy lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so it was sort of a thread of something that felt very real and grounding.
Grounding, yeah.
Yeah, so
That's the
that
word.
I didn't get hooked up in a lot of things that could have been very easy to get hooked up into. So I'm grateful for it too, because it did sort of keep me on a very mission, a purposeful road.
Yeah, I have one question. You mentioned earlier that the body feels the emotion, and the mind kind of, I guess you could say, interprets it, right? Or
Sure.
labels it rather, right?
That's right. That's good.
And categorizes it. Compares it maybe to the emotions that you experienced before, and tries to say, okay, yeah, that sounds like something, or feels like something, or whatever. And you talk about alignment between the two, right? That particular area is of great interest to me, because I was influenced by Eckhart Tolle, and he talks a lot about really finding alignment through your body, right? Through breathing. And there's some beautiful techniques that he is describing. What is your experience, and how do you relate to this, finding alignment between the two, body and mind? What does that mean to you?
Yeah. I think that my focus is strength. I'm an expert on strength. And to be an expert at strength, you have to also really understand tension, because tension is what blocks strength. So if I look at alignment as my bones being stretched between earth and sky, putting me in absolute perfect alignment so that I actually feel a weightlessness, that means that I have to allow my muscles tension that's holding the bones so tight, so desperately. I need to begin to let that tension go. And that doesn't necessarily mean being catatonic. It's not like either I'm surrendered completely for a massage and lying horizontally. You can both stand upright and be relaxed at the same time, right? I mean, we've all experienced that to some degree, or we can stand upright and be tense, filled with tension. Now, I look at the muscular system as our relationship with centripetal and centrifugal forces. And I see our bones' relationship with gravity. So we want the bones to be stretched between earth and sky optimally. And in the position they would be if we didn't have muscles attached. So if you just imagine that skeleton that was hanging in the front of science class.
Right. No tension whatsoever.
No tension pulling it into distortion. That's optimal for our bones. And now to make that happen, we need to have a balance between what's contracting, strength, and what's releasing. Now, energy and tension come from the same root. They're energy. I mean, strength and tension. They're both energy-based. Now, the only difference between the two is tension is static and strength is fluid. It's moving. So a contraction isn't static. It's active. It's moving as much as the release on the other side of that pulley system is releasing. The minute when that contraction and release are opposite and equal, that's the yin and yang. It creates a plane of equipoise in the middle. And that's where your bones lie. And the definition of equipoise would be that silent, still place between two opposing forces.
Mm-hmm.
So you can feel stillness and calm and quietude almost more dynamically when you're in movement than you do when you're sitting still in meditation. That's why I call it active meditation. The goal is to balance the contraction with the release. And if you can do that, you can nudge the tension into motion and give it a place, a direction to go, so you can start to let it go and release it. And it's like excavating the strength you already have. Instead of thinking that strength is something out in front of you that you're chasing to get and having to beat yourself up to acquire. We're stronger than we think. We're already strong. Now it's just getting the tension out of the way.
Is that somehow connected to Tao work that you do?
It's connected in that I'm using the theory of yin and yang in that opposition, in the opposition of the bones between earth and sky, and the opposition between tension or between contraction and release. And that whole circular element, that's the 5-element theory. So that's like how day turns into night and night turns into day again and again and again, how the seasons revolve around and around and around. This is all 5-element theory. Now, also the 5-element theory, which is a Tao theory, is connected to emotions and what emotion.
Baggage, right? Yeah.
Well, not just emotional baggage, just emotion.
Just
Like we store the emotion of joy in our heart, the emotion of sorrow in our lungs, the emotion of anger in our liver, the emotion of worry in our digestive system, the emotion of fear in our kidneys. So these are ways of diagnosing. Like if you, in traditional Tao, healing arts, you might use someone's emotional characteristic as one way of looking at where their weaknesses and strengths are in their organ systems. Now, I look at the muscular system, the skeletal muscular system, as a psyche muscular blueprint. So where your abdominals are your central strength, they can, when working them and using them and relating to them, you're connecting to what is essential in you, what is your center, your spiritual self. Your biceps are used to pull things towards you. They're what feeds you. The biceps carry your ability to pull desirables inwards. Triceps push undesirables away. Quadriceps are what move you forward in life. Hamstrings move you back. Buttocks are padded, but the strongest muscle of the body, they bring you comfort. So all of how the various muscles bring survival and growth into your life is exactly the kind of emotion that they carry. So as you start to break down muscle groups in a workout, you're also breaking down emotional components and singling them out to see where they are that day, see how you're feeling that day, to really kind of check in.
That's something that a person, a beginner, right, who would like to explore this further, definitely will need guidance, right, from somebody who knows what they're doing, like yourself, right? Or could they explore on their own? I mean,
They can do both. I am actually this year. I've just written a book, and it's being published by Balboa Press, which is an adjunct of Hay House, and it comes with 15 video tutorials that have a 3D avatar in them. And with this 3D avatar, you actually see how energy moves through the body, into your movement, and back to your center again. And that orbit of energy is how you generate energy as you use energy. It's kind of like a battery in a car. As long as you're you're moving, you're generating that battery, right? Because the car is set up balanced to do that. Without the generator, it couldn't do that. It would exhaust the battery and it would be done. And very often that's what we do. We exhaust ourselves because we don't meet a challenge. We kind of clobber it. We think we have to be more. So in whatever doubts we might have about our abilities or our worth or our strength in some way, we give so much that we give ourselves literally away. So this is a technique that helps to teach you to just meet, use only the force that's necessary, no more.
Work smarter, not harder.
That's right. It's like a handshake. It's like a handshake. You don't want to grab somebody's hand and crush it, and nor do you want to be like, fingertips.
I'm being so nice right now. You don't know. So many comments. I do know. I have a comment. It's interesting, and I'm not sure I recognize this in anybody else, but in watching you talk and listening to you talk, you have an interesting. You have this peaceful
grace. It's grace.
Yeah, but there's this peaceful countenance about you. Even when you're talking about, and the strength comes out too. It's really interesting.
Yes, I got the same impression. It's almost like you are engaged in martial arts when you talk. It's gentle and precise. And,
that's right. So it's gentle and strong at the same time.
At the same time. Oh, okay, here you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so BodyLogos really isn't just a training technique in the gym, although it's a beautiful place to practice it because you're already isolating muscle groups. So why not just use that as a time to train for balance? But it's the same thing you would do in a conversation with somebody. Anything in life that isn't you is an outside resistance because it's a different vibration than you. So anything that's not you is resistance. Now, it might be a resistance you like, and it might be a resistance you don't like, or it might, there's all sorts of different variables in that. But you do have to, you don't have to do anything. But what we try to do when we live in grace is to meet it and to allow everything to be without hurting anything, and without taking over, and to allow it to be an exchange.
I'm not sure if this is exactly a parallel here, but it just reminds me of something that I have called emotional judo, where you meet somebody, have an interaction with somebody who's mad, who's depressed, who's whatever, and it's not an energy that you want to take on.
Yeah.
Right. Judo teaches to use the other person's energy against them, or not so much. It's the right word, but it doesn't mean that you're doing anything to them necessarily, but you sort of let them come to you and then step aside and help you sort of tag on to that energy to pass them by.
Yeah.
Or let them pass by you. That's what that makes me think of. You're not confronting.
That's right.
You're recognizing it, but
there's opposition, but there's not confrontation.
There you go. Perfect.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
How has this been going? Did you have any interesting experiences to share with us? Are you in the beginning of your journey, or you already come some way?
Well, I have. Let's see. My statement of purpose was written. I was ordained Adamo Minister back in 1997. So that was the inception of BodyLogos. I will say that one of the scariest moments of my life, even scarier than stepping out onto a Broadway stage, was teaching my first BodyLogos class. I thought I was going to be laughed out of the club. You know, it was a fitness environment. I was surrounded by classes with blasting music and mics with teachers screaming commands at people. And I come in with this very lulling, meditative voice, encouraging people to work less hard. Less is more. And to really learn to connect and to build off of that connection instead of using brute force, because brute force is based in tension. It's really not based in strength. So you can just keep building tension if you want to. But if you want to build strength, you got to get to the undertow of the wave, not the wave. Get to the undertow of the wave. Now you're connected. Now work from that. And then I'm saying, now when you're working your biceps, pull desirables towards you. What is it that you would like in your life? What is it that you would like to improve in yourself? And I just thought, I am going to be laughed out of this club. I mean, this is just insane. But the truth was, people loved it. Tears were coming down their face.
I'm loving just to listen to this, because it gives meaning to what you're doing. It fills it up with meaning. If I wanted to do this movement and at the same time meditate that I'm attracting something, I'm desiring something, and I'm pulling it towards myself, that makes it so much more effective, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think, like you asked the question about a beginner, do they need a lot of oversight? No, you just got that piece. Like, does having me as a trainer help? Well, yeah, of course it would. like there's so many nuances, but can you begin to explore it and then let your body teach you? I mean, really, that's what it's about. Your body has its own intelligence. Our mind has its own intelligence, but never think that your mind can replace your body. It can't. It's a different animal. So the goal is to be able to learn to listen to the body and begin to trust what it's saying and to learn its language. And so with this book video learning system, it should be coming out. It'll be out before the end of the year.
Congratulations. We are excited.
Thank you. Thank you. I am so excited. Yeah, so excited. I'm actually, if your listeners are interested in a sneak preview of one of the videos, I'm giving a video away. I'm giving it away on my homepage, so anybody can go and take a look and download that.
I have it behind the video window for this. I have it up in front of me.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm looking at it. So, yeah, it looks interesting. What you were talking about there made me think about this idea of technique, how important technique is in particular in sports. And I'm not a golfer, but for whatever reason, golf in particular comes to mind. Because you can have somebody who goes out there and just is trying to make the ball explode when they swing, and they'll do fine, except when they don't, right? It goes one way or the other. But somebody else who comes out and is more focused on the proper swing, they may have better success than the person who goes out there and just tries to, brute force it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that maybe what you're trying to say is when you can be deliberate with skill, then you have mastery. We can all be great at something once in a while, right? And we can all pull off a triple pirouette on occasion, but if we don't have the skill, we can't pull it off when we're up there in the spotlight. Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. That comes only to me through practice and practice and practice until your body basically does this on autopilot. Yeah. Right. And then suddenly you reach this level when you could, you mastered it, right? You could do it on demand, and now the mind simply kind of requests it, right? It puts a message saying, okay, now is the time to do it. Yeah. But the body just completes the work by itself. So.
Yeah. It's like so many other things where if you start thinking about it, consciously thinking about it, you're going to take yourself out of the flow.
Well, I think what Tammy means that when you achieved mastery, the mind could interject certain parameters in there, do it this way and do it that way, and it will not become detrimental to your ability to do it. It actually will fine-tune it.
Yes, there is so think about the body skill being in feel, while the mind is in think.
Yeah.
So like, let's just take live theater, for example. So your body's in feel, you're doing your dancing, you're completely into it, and then something goes wrong, right? Like somebody doesn't make an entrance, the music falls apart, something just goes wrong. And your mind has to come in and go, you got to problem solve very quickly and decide how you're going to navigate through this change, because you can no longer just rely on being in feel with something that's practiced. You have to now divert yourself, right?
In other words, you need intelligence, right? You need the intelligence to come in.
That's right. The reasoning, the reasoning ability of the mind.
The mind, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
How beautifully complex the system is that we still know very little about, but it's so amazing the way it works together.
Yeah.
And to gain some knowledge and excel at using it to the fullest potential, it's a gift. Yeah.
I think it's also, I've just been writing about this lately, and hopefully I can get this thought out, because I haven't really successfully written about it yet, but it has to do with boundaries versus limits. Now, I'm very good at knowing boundaries, and I thought I was good at limits, but I actually recently I came down with shingles, and I realized how exhausted I was. And it made me realize that boundaries is knowing the perimeter of something. Limits is knowing what you can do within that perimeter, right? Like, how much can I give this space, this idea, this challenge, this request? How much can I give it? I didn't have limits. I would give like 150%, right? Like that was my, even though I know I need to just meet a challenge, my habit, and this is not a good habit, this was a not so good habit, that I needed to do 150% to get on Broadway. I needed to do 150% to be ordained. I really was still operating under that habit. And it wasn't until I got shingles that I went, oh, I've been thinking boundaries is the same as limits, and it's not. And I don't even recall what you asked me, but it brought up that idea in my head that, being able to stay within a boundary and know what is right for you in that moment, and not to over or under strive, is a real, it's an art. It's truly an art.
It's a next level of knowing, right? It's a higher level of knowing something about yourself that comes with, I guess, with some contrast, like what you experienced with shingles, right? Because it meant expansion, it meant transformation from you. It gave you a new view at this, right?
Yeah.
Had it not occurred, you wouldn't have arrived to this problem.
That's right. That's right.
So there's a beauty and there's a value in this experience. Always. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that with any practice, and certainly with all of the Eastern either healing arts or practices, like I loved your phrase, I even wrote it down, emotional judo. That's fantastic. I love that. But all of the Eastern practices are mind-body, in that you approach life in the same way you approach your workout, and in the same way you would approach an opponent in a competition. It's all operating from the same principles. So your workout is your time to practice those principles so that when you're in life and not, 80% focused on you, in life, you're more like 20% focused on you if you're lucky, and 80% is out in the world trying to perform some task. And so it's practice is necessary for mastery, for sure.
Yeah. Tim, if you don't mind, I will ask a completely unrelated question, because I'm always puzzled. The world is obsessed with Olympic achievement, right? Of pushing the boundaries of human achievement physically, right?
Yeah.
Pushing physical boundaries, right? Running faster, jumping higher, and it's milliseconds, it's tiniest things that are celebrated, right? What's the value in this to you? What do you think? Why are humans so motivated to challenge themselves physically to approach to their, or to break through the limits of their physical ability? What is this behind? I mean, I just don't get it.
Yeah. Well, let me just say, I don't think it's just physical. I think there are people who are striving to win the Nobel Prize and striving to, create the next best thing in every possible subject. So I don't think it's only physical, but yes, the Olympics are a wonderful example of that striving nature that we are all born with. And I think some of us have a greater need to win, to be the best, to be first. And maybe I would, I don't know if I have the answer for you, but what it makes me think about is, I know no matter whether you're a gentleman or a criminal, that you are striving to be the best at what you do, or to be at least good at what you do. You want to be a good broadcaster on your podcast. You want that for yourself. You want to be good. Everybody wants to be good.
I don't know. Like, if you ask me, is it more important? Well, hold on. Like, is it more important? I was just contemplating this. Is it more important for me to be good, like, in the eyes of others, or to really enjoy my time and enjoy myself in this experience? And I have to say it's the latter.
That's very good. That's that Latin blood in you, that's so good. I mean, that's what I'm talking about, like with limits. It's like, do I have to be the best, or can I just like enjoy myself? Is that good enough? Like, I really like to knit, but do I have to finish the sweater today? Like, no, you don't. So
Gary's always got his either or. There's no coexistence.
But there is and I didn't mean good meaning good as in good girl, good boy, but just simply in having,
like, to be of value,
to be of value, very
value,
good. Yes,
and to feel that you're doing something that contributes, right, to others,
to the world.
Right?
That's right.
To the world. And yes, it is important, but I'll say many times I'm thinking, this is a great conversation. I hope that somebody will stumble upon it and have a blast like we did, right? But then on second thought, like, well, maybe they won't. But you know what? I really loved it myself, and that really was great. So
but it doesn't. I just want to point out, it doesn't mean that you don't want to be better at what you're doing, right?
When you say better,
not necessarily
a very interesting concept. What better means? Better,
whatever it means to you.
What is the measurement of being better? I think you are already the best if you're present and you're connected and you are dissolving in this experience, and you're they're having a connection, right?
Right.
Our three souls are having a connection here. Could anything be better than that? This is already it's amazing.
That's right. It's as good as it gets, really, right? I mean, because when you celebrate the win of being that half a second faster than your competitor and winning the gold, in some ways, it's self-appraisal. You're in it by yourself. You're the only one standing up there. And I'm not saying you didn't have coaches and helpers and all of that. Your family's there with you, or whoever it is that's your support group. It is an accomplishment that is very self, as opposed to what you're talking about, which is a connection. It's about union and uniting with others. And that's a different kind of win. That's a different kind of win. Yeah. It's interesting. It's a really great question. It's
the one you get to share, which is amazing, right? To share. Because I mean, okay, so you're running your distance and you want it. But it's amazingly more pleasant if you share that victory with your teammates, right? Everybody knows that. You get to celebrate together and go, after a great baseball win or whatever, or
you have the whole team together,
the whole team to celebrate with, and you are high. Your buddies are there with you to celebrate. So that's it's so much greater. Yeah. Well, like they say, different strokes for different folks, right? Like, I'm sure the people that choose the type of sport that you're the only one in the lane. It's like put your head down and swim to the wall. No one exists but them. In that moment, no one exists but them. And that's a high for them. It must be,
They're pushing themselves to this place that they've never even been to. So it's an exploration for them as well.
And still they want to share. I'll tell you, because my little sister is in competitive swimming, and she times herself, and when she breaks her own record, she immediately shares it through a text message with me. I guess she just can't contain it.
It's an accomplishment. Yeah. But you know what? Those are at least as much mental as physical. You cannot forget about breaking other people's records. You can't get better than your best without having the mindset for it.
That's right.
It doesn't happen by accident. You really got to push yourself farther and farther in order to be better.
Yeah.
That's the product of really great alignment between the body and mind that we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's the highest,
absolutely.
the pinnacle, the highest alignment.
There's a documentary about Conor McGregor, the UFC mixed martial arts fighter, and it's phenomenal to watch how hard this guy works. He's in the gym with all these other guys, and you just see why he's the champion, and all the rest of them are just hanging around and wannabes. He pushes himself so much harder than anybody else is doing.
Yeah. I have come to define strength as the ability to connect with resistance, create a desired change without compromising yourself. Now, if someone can work themselves that hard and they are not compromising themselves, then power to them.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, to push themselves that hard, would be compromising themselves. And it doesn't mean that they're less than. It just means that that's not their path.
And by compromising themselves, you mean when they're still finding it fun and enjoyable, right?
They want to still find it fun, and where you're not creating tension versus strength, whether it's mental, emotional, or physical. Now, you need to stretch your boundaries and push through challenge, but it doesn't mean you need to push so hard that it's just all tension based. If you become just tension based, I feel you're stunting yourself. You're shortening your life. You're putting strain on your body in a way that isn't healthy. But if you can work that hard, and you've trained in a way that has built you up progressively in a way that you can handle it, power to you. Power
It's
to
kind
you.
of, isn't it? It's the difference between growth and effort or something. It's, you know, when you're doing that, I like to bicycle, mountain bike, and I'm I'm not currently in shape anymore, but when I get back into shape and I go out, I cannot go for a leisurely ride. I can't do it. I start out intention. I'm consciously restricting myself from pushing, you know, and I'm just going and just next thing you know, I'm just like, how can I keep my pace up? Can I, you know, and there, I don't know, there's something about that when you're finished and you're worn out, it's a satisfying feeling of worn out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's you've, I don't know if I push my limits necessarily, but maybe a little.
Yeah, it sounds like you are. But what makes you want to start by not doing that? Like, why are you using your will to not do that?
There are times when I just want to go just to enjoy the ride, but I'm when I'm on the trail that I usually ride. There's nothing new to look at. There's not the one I usually ride. There's really not much to look at. But I don't know. I mean,
that's the interesting piece, isn't it?
Yeah.
You want to just enjoy the environment, enjoy the ride, yet, and you want to go slow. You think you want to go slow, but then when you get out there, you just can't. And I think that part of this is that our society, America, we're very do-oriented, product-oriented. We go to school, we learn how to do stuff. Everything's about doing stuff. And we never really learn how to not do stuff or to undo or to actually, you know, they go, oh, just relax. I am relaxed. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. But, you know, if I'm riding with other people, I don't have a problem with the leisurely ride.
With the leisurely ride.
Yeah.
So maybe you're uncomfortable with the space and the quiet and your own company a little bit. You know, to be out there and not be pushing yourself and just being gentle and with yourself and your environment, you need to find it pleasing. You need to enjoy your own company, enjoy your new perspective of that same path on that particular day.
I need to move to a nicer part of the country where it's not so dusty and dry, and I can ride through the woods and the mountains.
I don't think it depends on what surrounds you. It's all.
I know, but
yeah,
that's my dream, dude. I want a property in the mountains with trees, and it's big enough that I can create a path and go right.
Yeah, as you were saying, as you were describing your experience, I often go on hikes, and I am wandering around and looking at things and seeing things, and I could just stop and just kind of freeze and enjoy this amazing opening in front of me that I just made a turn and suddenly there's this beauty, right? And then a couple of people on mountain bikes would pass by. They're all consumed in their riding. And I'm thinking, dude, you're missing the whole thing.
Well, you're out there for a different purpose though too.
That's true.
Right? They're not out there.
No, No, right? They seem to be enjoying themselves a lot. Yeah.
There's those. We all got different stuff going on, don't we?
Yeah.
But I think that BodyLogos, as much as it is about strength and movement, it's also about really learning how to relax, because that's as much a part of strength as anything else, is learning that surrendering. And I talk about it like your ability to experience the bone. And often we experience our musculoskeletal system as one system. Mm-hmm. And we don't really have a separate relationship with our bones versus our muscles. It's all just one big thing. And so when you can start to separate your relationship with these two systems, you learn to relax, because the tension is in the muscles holding on to the bones so tight. So if you can begin to surrender that grip and begin to feel the weight of your bones, and you actually go, okay, that's gravity laying on my arm, giving the earth the weight of my bones. When you can do that, all of the tension that's pulling your joints in sort of obscured angles goes away. It all starts to surrender. There's a doctor named Dr. Traeger, and he created a style of body work, and and it was based on rocking, like you might rock a child, but as an adult, we're too big to be rocked like a child. So he rocks body part by body part to try to get you to release tension. And he started out as the doctor that makes you go to sleep.
Kevorkian.
No, I want to sleep.
That's a different sleep.
Before surgery, they give you.
Anesthesiologist.
Anesthesiologist. There you go. Thank you. So he was an anesthesiologist.
I like his answer better, though.
And what he would notice is when people would go under, one tension area at a time would surrender until they were completely relaxed. And as the drug wore off, one tension spot at a time would come back exactly the same way it was before they went under. And so he learned that these holding patterns were pretty much written in their body. And I call it your psyche-muscular blueprint. It's your life story. Anything unresolved in your life story is held in your soft tissue still. And as long as it's still unresolved, you're going to wake up from this surgery and it's still the same unresolved stuff that was there when you went under. So it's all going to come back. It's not like you forget it when you're in the surgery. So I just thought that was like a really interesting story, that this anesthesiologist watched these holding patterns unravel and re-ravel exactly the same way after a surgery. And so he was recognizing the same thing that I'm recognizing here, that the body has to learn to let go. And we say that very trite to one another. Oh, let it go. And, my sister used to say that to me a lot, and I wanted to smack her, because I'd be like, don't you think I'd let it go if I knew how to let it go? I don't know how to let it go, and I want to let it go, but it's not going anywhere. And so part of my growth was in actually learning how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I love this.
Describing, yeah. Yes, Tim.
No, I was just going to say, you're talking about in different terms. This is programs, that we all have picked up, and this is how some of them just express themselves, is in muscle tension, and right, and you're figuring out how to unwind those programs.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, and it makes me think of a computer. When you turn a computer on, it goes through the same programs, all of the same things, right. And the idea of somebody going right back into the tension when they're coming out from surgery.
Sequence,
It's all like it's like that's exactly what happens. The programs start running again, and what else would you expect?
Yeah.
Cool.
As you were describing, Tammy, your the anesthesiologist example. Did you guys ever faint? I
almost fainted once. Close. I wooed.
Oh yeah, I fainted three times maybe. But the memory of that, you just got unplugged, and it was an amazing experience to come back. It was almost, like a cold reboot, but there was amazing clarity to that. And I know what you mean, because the muscles just are completely relaxed, and all this baggage, all the accumulation of tension, right? It's all gone. I don't think that you could achieve this level of relaxation through meditation or anything like that, because this is the highest level of unplugging your mind, really, physically, right? Physically.
If you're conscious, it's hard.
Yeah.
I'd love to go get massages, and I have noticed at different times, you know, I'm on the table, she's working on my shoulders, my back, whatever, and I'm still, you know, I have to consciously
still tension.
Like, okay, let that go, you know. Even 15 minutes in, 20 minutes in, I'm still tense.
Yeah. One day, I think, if not already, people will, I think, use this controlled kind of unplugging without medication, you know, just as a way of, you know, treating things, you know, treating conditions, and as therapy, you know, who knows,
Sure.
right?
I mean, stress is the root of
Releasing
all disease. So, yeah,
you know,
for sure.
yeah.
And it's,
I think,
you know, people, go ahead. I
was just going to relate. I was going to relate his fainting story to how children, when they've been abused and they disassociate from their environment, I think that disassociation is very similar to fainting. It's not quite the same, but you actually leave your body and go someplace else that feels safer than the place that you're in.
Yeah, it's a kind of protective reaction, right? It's a defense mechanism, right? Of sorts.
That's right.
Which is interesting because, you know, you would think that the thing that we would want to protect is the physical body, but that suggests that we know that the physical body is not us, right? And we're taking our consciousness somewhere else, because that's the thing.
Yeah, it's funny.
That's the real.
It's an interesting experience. I used to disassociate a lot as a kid. My dad was an alcoholic and a pedophile, so I had many experiences where I just would go. And it actually feels like this hand from the universe just plucks you out of the situation and takes you to a place where it's safe. And this was my first experience of actually, and I think it's because of these experiences that I really recognized the difference between tension and strength. I was a curled up body of tension that was released into this aligned strength that I felt drawn between earth and sky, and I felt completely empowered. And it was such an opposite experience from where I was. So it was like, but I wasn't in control of it. I had no mastery of this. I don't know how I would get there. And then I would come back and blah. I was like a ping pong ball between these two worlds that didn't go together, you know. And as an adult, I think I have, through mastery of dance and then, you know, everything else that I learned about energy and about consciousness and all of my various trainings, has been in an effort to bring that experience into a very grounded, conscious place, so I could have that deliberate empowerment in the world, not up there being plucked out of the world, you know, that I could ground it and bring it into the world. So I think,
I know what you mean. That sensation. I was once facing a really big guy, and physically I had no chance to overpower this guy. And at some point, well, I still tried though. You know, I still tried, but I didn't last for too long. And at some point, he started pounding me, and I was almost like outside of myself, looking at myself, experiencing this.
right.
And, you know, amazingly enough, after surrendering to this, I was like, okay, we're going to go through with this now. You know, I experienced no pain, you know. It was almost like it was kind of, I don't know what happens chemically, maybe something with adrenaline in the body. It's a defense mechanism. But it was almost like, once you accepted it, and after a certain barrier was crossed, the pain, and you kind of get used to it, right?
Yeah, right.
You kind of basically then go into that safe place. I think that's what you were saying, right? Almost kind of disconnecting from your physical form.
Yeah.
And of course, when you start recovering, it all comes back.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Bad. So
that might resemble childbirth a little bit, right? Yeah. Like the pain is so much great that they suddenly just are like numbed out.
Yeah. So
it is amazing. Consciousness is a very interesting place.
It has certain mechanisms that you would be amazed, right? How it's all done, and it has formed, I think, through many centuries of evolution.
Sure.
We were running, away from wild animals, so
there might be a few wild ones out there still.
I was going to say, sometimes we still do.
So, yeah.
Okay, I think we're there. Tammy, we definitely want you to let everybody know how to get more of Tammy Wise, and unless you have a burning question that needs to be asked.
Oh, I enjoyed this interaction a lot. Thank you so much. Yeah.
You're welcome.
I can't wait to go and check out those tutorials, because it's about changing the mindset from what you used to be, the way that you used to be looking at things, by elevating it and looking at the same thing but differently, and that allows you to expand.
That's right.
And really grow. And I really appreciate that, Tammy.
Yeah. Well, people can come. I blog regularly, so they can come to BodyLogos.com, and they're on the homepage. They can get a free sneak preview video from the book, and it's about learning to surrender tension in 8 minutes. And then there's the blog page, so you can regularly see my writing on just what we've been talking about here, the ways of really being in life. Not just your workout, but to being in life with using the principles of Tao and BodyLogos. So, yeah.
Great.
Well, it was a pleasure being here. Thank you so much. I enjoyed the conversation a lot.
All right. We'll talk to you again, I hope.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
Hi, this is Tim Starr. Thanks for joining me and Gabi on the universe between your ears. We really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us for a little while. And we'd like to see you again. So be sure to subscribe wherever it is you're consuming the podcast from, whether it's YouTube or Stitcher or iTunes or whatever the hell else is out there. We want to see you again. We also want to hear from you. So let us know what you think of each episode. Let us know if you've got an idea for a future episode that you think would be just killer. Absolutely, let us know. All right? Thanks again, and we will see you next time around.